Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the cutting room. Here on our fourth episode. We'll get into the first topic of today in a little bit, but let me introduce. Welcome back, Solomon, the man behind the board. Solomon, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Pretty good. I had a good week. Really good week actually. This past weekend, I was able to pick up one of these bad boys.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if they look familiar. Did you ever see a movie called Space Jam?
I did.
Yeah, the Space Jam 11s, the 11 lows. I was actually like really surprised I was able to get them.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I was really happy actually. Man, did you ever see Space Jam when it came out?
A long time ago. I didn't
Yeah.
see like the remake and all that stuff yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these shoes were worn on this like famous scene. It was a final game, and then Michael Jordan's like walking up. They're going for the tip off, and that one alien like looks down in his shoes like, ugh, nice shoes. But that was a huge blockbuster movie by a big studio.
Hmm.
But today we're not talking about big studio movies nor huge wrestling promotions. I love the indies. I absolutely love the indie circuit of pro wrestling. I love indie films. It has a lot more heart. There's a lot more effort. It feels very personal. It feels very intimate. I actually went to my very first indie wrestling show last week. Prestige Wrestling. Prestige Wrestling had a show at the Vermont in Hollywood. Yeah, Prestige Wrestling, really good show. I heard about the card a little over a month ago. And I was like contemplating, like, hey, you've never gone to an indie show. I mean, there's so many options nowadays than before, than 10 years ago. Back then the indies wasn't what it is now. There's so many options. Like streaming services, there's so many options. It's not just Netflix. It's Paramount Plus, Hulu, so many options nowadays. Different flavors of ice cream, honestly, and so great. Had a really good card. Some of the talent that I was actually familiar with, because most of the New Japan stars, TNA stars, AEW stars have a working have an agreement that their talent is allowed to perform in indie promotions, which gives the wrestler a lot more options and it gives them a lot more opportunities for employment. Because all these guys are actually independent contractors. That's something that a lot of people don't understand about pro wrestling. They just think WWE and that's it. But no, these people have to make a living, and when they're not on television, they're not getting paid sometimes, or they're not getting exposure. They're not getting the television time, and that allows these guys to branch out into different promotions, and one of them being Prestige Wrestling. We'd like to pull up the TikTok actually that I was able to vlog. Appreciate the hospitality that was given to me by this guy.
Nice. Nice.
That was I fucking love it, honestly. Appreciate it. Brittany Brooks and Jessica Roden, who were working the merch table that night, that were able to give me really good shots, and they were really receptive. A guy in a mask vlogging around the arena, the venue, looks a little bit odd, suspicious. But even the talent that came out during their entrances favored the camera. It was really awesome.
Now,
That was
did they let you like did they give you special access to get your film, or where is it just you just happen to have a front
No,
row
I
seat?
fly on the wall. Fly on the
Okay.
wall. I really just kind of pulled it out when I felt was right. Um, I mean, if I had certain looks for me, I'd kind of be like, oh, I'll be respectful and take the mask off. But no, it was really easy, and I was able to
Nice.
enjoy the show. It didn't feel like work. It felt like such a good night. Jeff Cobb of New Japan Pro Wrestling was there. Evo Uno of AEW was there. Shelton Benjamin, who used to wrestle for WWE. He used to wrestle with Kurt Angle, who's part of the World's Greatest Tag Team and Team Angle. He wrestled a lot with Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero. Had a really good match against Shawn Michaels on Raw once. He gave this really famous super kick spot. Um, has performed in multiple Money in the Bank ladder matches at WrestleMania. Really good talent. He used um, Brock Lesnar's roommate in college because they went to the University of Minnesota
Oh, wow.
together. So, really good card. I appreciated everything. It won't be my last time going. And we look into more independent promotions and more cards to go to because I fell in love. I was addicted. Um, it felt as good as going to an AEW show or any WWE show because it felt like Green Day at the Gilman Street. Um, it felt like going to see Rancid. It felt very punk rock. Before it's like finding that great rock band that no one knows about, and you're able to see them live at a show randomly, and you look up their discography, and it sends you on this wormhole of different venues and avenues of different talent, and that's what it felt like. That's the beauty of the indie circuit, in the indie world, and I what a wonderful the indie's such a wonderful world. Um, and one of the first examples of independent films that we're gonna get into would have to be Clerks, which was directed and written by the great Kevin Smith, who really paved the way. One of the trendsetters. Before him was Richard Linklater, who directed Slackers. But then, 1993 or four, we got the beautiful film that is Clerks, which is basically what it is. It's the story of a guy working at a convenience store in New Jersey, where Kevin Smith is from. And the reason this ties into indie pro wrestling is because when you look at this cast, you look at this film, and you look at the way it was done, black and white, literally no maximum three locations, two locations at the most, but all in the same vicinity. Uh, so Kevin Smith betted on himself, put up the money, which is about a little over $20,000 for that time in the '90s. Is that that's not common. So he put up the money, maxed out his credit cards, took out loans, sold his whole comic book collection that he had. He's a huge comic book fan. Sold all that to get this film done and casted it himself, him and his partner Mosier, who's his producer. Um, and they really betted on themselves. It was very was it a DIY, do it yourself. And they really betted, and they had no real like goal to make money off this project. It was really just two guys with a vision that wanted to give an alternative, because the early '90s of what was hot in Hollywood. I mean, we had Waterworld, we had movies like E.T. Um, and this was really about a very coming of age in a sense, because the main character, which is Dante, finds out that his ex girlfriend is getting married, and he has this other girlfriend that he's been with for a while that treats him good and everything, but toxic. That whole looking back on that whole toxic relationship he had with his ex, he messes all that up, and but intertwined, it's really finding about like him finding a place post high school. He's in his early 20s. He's trying to see where he fits in. He's taking classes at a community college, and very bored, and his girlfriend wants better for him. And if you really think about the place that this film is set in, which is New Jersey, maybe that's what a lot of people were going through. This kind of gave a voice to the voiceless of the adolescent teens or adolescent of that time. And it's really well written. I love Kevin Smith's dialogue. It's what he's known for. Um, really good at what he does. And I don't recall. And if you get a chance to see actually all three Clerks, anybody, to me, Clerks is one of the best trilogies ever. All three films have their own identity. It's not one piggybacking off of the legacy of the original, nor trying to fix anything of the second, nor is the third just trying to give fan fare and just please the fans with all these little quirks and little callbacks. It's not doing that. Each of them had its own identity and tells the story of this character in three different periods of his life. Such a beautiful film. The original's great. The second one, it's funny. Had a lot of backing of the studios at that time. That's why it kind of feels a little more Hollywood. The third one is such a beautiful send off to all these characters that we grew up to love. That we grew up on these films. And Kevin Smith was actually the originator of this whole um, the universe and cinematic universe thing. Before Marvel was doing its thing, we had the View Askew universe. We had Jay and Silent Bob. We had the characters of Mallrats. We had the characters of Chasing Amy. That's the reason we see Ben Affleck in all his movies. Jersey Girl. I think Jersey Girl is like one of my favorite Kevin Smith films of all time. Some people might bag on it. I don't care. To me, it's a great, tells a great story. If you check out any more of Kevin Smith's work, worth a view if you haven't seen it. Awesome film director. But when I was kind of doing my homework for this episode, I kind of noticed that Kevin Smith reminds me now of a very familiar wrestling figure that has a lot of similarities in his career. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to pull up a picture of the great Paul E. Heyman. And if you look, they really do look alike, don't they, Solomon? In a way, the long hair, the coat on, the hat. So Paul E. Heyman,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's the founder of ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. It was a wrestling promotion in the '90s. Was really known to be the renegade of pro wrestling because in the early '90s, all we had was WCW and WWE, which were big, huge, TV popular, TV friendly pro wrestling. What he did in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, not New Jersey, what he did was start a wrestling promotion that was also an alternative to what we were seeing on television. Um, it was a lot more extreme. It was very bloody. It was hardcore matches. He gave opportunity to wrestlers who were nobodies. And if they were somebodies, they were unappreciated. Kind of what Kevin Smith did with his cast. He didn't have anybody known on that clerk set. He used friends, he used theater actors that needed opportunity. And what both these guys did was give careers to people who were not looked upon. Paul E. Heyman gave careers to Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, Sandman, Taz. We also had Rob Van Dam. Um, but both films also, well, both Clerks and ECW have in common was it was a very family orientated team. You know, everyone knew each other. It was really just showing up to set and just having fun, going to these shows and just having fun. And that's the beauty of the indies. That's one of the beauties of the indies that that I love is because it's not pressure to have to please studio execs, to please for ratings. It's really just about the art. It's about the art of filmmaking. It's about the art of pro wrestling. About just doing what you feel is right. And sometimes that is us as fans, we resonate more towards that than what is being forcefully fed to us. And that's what Paul E. Heyman did with ECW. And I'm very glad that WWE inducted him into the Hall of Fame this past year at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Out of all cities, there was no place better to induct that great man. This man also was, there's a saying in wrestling, being known as a Paul Heyman guy, which means that he has been able to singly point out a talent in the background, in backstage, and tell the higher ups because he is trusted. Also a great writer, great booker, just like Kevin Smith. But he's able to point them out and say, "Hey, he's going to be somebody." One of them being the Beast Brock Lesnar, CM Punk. Already, just those two juggernauts of people. It's already like, how could you not? He was He also picked out Roman Reigns. So the man's a legend, and I'm glad he took his spot in the Hall of Fame and continues to be a personality on WWE television. Um, but yeah, that was a great comparison. Let's talk about another indie film that I remember when it came out, the buzz around it because an indie film it has to stand out. What an indie film has to be, it has to be completely different. It has to be an alternative of what we're getting. And in around 2003, 2004, we were getting movies like The Fantastic Four. We were getting movies like Hitch. Um, what action movies were out in 2005 and 4? The Star Wars movies were being released. The final Star Wars movie of Episode 3 was waiting to come out. But in that time, there was two film students that made a short film and were able to make it themselves and show that there's a different audience that hasn't had a film for them yet. And it was based out of Idaho, of all places. And in the whole plot is really just small town things that only small town people could get. And we're talking about Napoleon Dynamite. And anybody who hasn't seen Napoleon Dynamite, I don't know how you haven't seen it. I think everyone in that time was watching that movie nonstop. I know I was. Um, but such a great film, great comedy, quirky, also really well written. Because if you really think about it, there's not a whole lot going on in this movie other than a teenager in high school, awkward, um, not really sociable with the cool crowds. In the high school movie, it's like very clicked up. And at first, when I first saw this movie, I don't know if it was taking place in the '80s or not. But then as the movie goes on, you kind of see, yeah, okay, it's present day. It just seems like this town never moved on. But such a great film. I rewatched it. Saw a lot of things I hadn't seen the first times around that I've seen it. Uh, I This movie really paved the way in the early to no the mid 2000s for movies like Juno, Little Miss Sunshine, um, where it gave that, I don't want to say that hipster types of person. They had gave them their own movies, their own movie genre, where people are socially awkward and the conversations are very sarcastic. Um, and even just like looking at the set design and everything caught me. It was like swooped me in and sucked me into this plot. And such a great the characters like Uncle Rico. We got the Rex Kwando. Such a funny movie. Did you ever see this movie, Solomon?
Yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
did.
Did you like it?
I mean, I liked it, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, but also in the same time that this movie was released, there's a wrestling company that was fairly new and was also being a alternative for what we were getting in pro wrestling. And it was post WCW when WCW and ECW closed its doors. Another one just planted the seeds and began a new era of wrestling. And that company was actually known to be Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor. It was the way this company started was that the same guy that sold the VHSs for ECW, Rob Feinstein, he needed a way to continue selling VHSs and tapes, which was called tape collecting in pro wrestling, where they guys get footage of New Japan wrestling matches or pay per views, and they sell them. And because back then it was these matches and these shows were not so attainable like it is nowadays, you had to find the tapes. So this guy created a company, um, which was completely different than what we were so used to for the WWE product in 2002. But really gave also opportunity to stars that we weren't gonna see on SmackDown or Raw. We weren't gonna see um in New Japan at the time because New Japan wasn't what it is today. But guys like CM Punk, Brian Danielson, AJ Styles, the Briscoe brothers, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, real small guys that were a lot more athletic than at the time we had the Batistas, we had the Undertaker still, we had the big shows. But yeah, Ring of Honor really it set rules to the matches where there's the code of honor where before and after each wrestling match, each wrestler has to shake each other's hand. It was a lot more respect. And when the company first started, was done out of like little gymnasiums. And eventually in like their first pay-per-view show, they were able to get stars like Super Crazy and Eddie Guerrero. When Eddie Guerrero was going through his rehab time and when he was fired from WWE, he actually was at that show. He wrestled CM Punk. He wrestled guys like Loki, and he gave them a lot of props. And he told them like, you know, I can't get this from stars in WWE. These guys were hungry. Guys like Punk, guys like AJ Styles, the Briscoe brothers, the Amazing Red. All these guys weren't gonna. They in their heart they maybe thought like this might be it. This is gonna be my only shot. And it was really like the AAA of wrestling, Ring of Honor. It being and I loved how big it got, um, and how it continues. Thankfully to Tony Khan, he actually bought the rights. He bought the whole rights to Ring of Honor and continues to put on Ring of Honor shows. Um, but it has a huge legacy because it gave stars, the stars of today, these big stars that are now, the Brian Danielsons, the Joes, AJ Styles, and everybody that's went through Austin Aries, the people who went through these doors are now the stars of today. And it couldn't be done without companies like Ring of Honor, places like Prestige Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Gorilla. Pro Wrestling Gorilla is another. We wouldn't have AEW if it wasn't for Pro Wrestling Gorilla because it gave stars like El Generico, Kevin Steen. It gave the Young Bucks a place. Kenny Omega went through those doors. A lot of people who are huge in the. It's like the. It's like the indies now took over and rewrit what makes a pro wrestler nowadays. Same as films, same as independent movies. They rewrote the rules. They were the renegades. They push Universal. They push all these huge studios to be better. That's why we need options. That's why pro wrestling and films need options, and it allows people who have huge ideas better than what these writers and studio execs can't do nowadays. They can't write an idea to save their life, to save their career. That's why we're watching Fast and Furious 15 at this point. But you got guys like Kevin Smith, like John Heater. You had guys like Paul Heyman, um, Dave Sapolsky, who continued on after Rob Feinstein left Ring of Honor when he was fired. These guys continue to be the competition, even though they were never asked. It's guys with dreams to put out their ideas, and I love that because it feels like when I was in the crowd for Prestige, I looked around and I could not I couldn't find that type of reaction at a WWE live show. Like, I went to a WWE live show back in March, and I was so excited walking into it. It was at the Palm Springs, at the new arena that they have there. I was so excited. I get in there and I look around. The crowd is dead. I mean, yeah, the kids were hyped off, the matches. But then I go to this Prestige show, and I'm there. I look around and I see these people chit chatting, and it was really like backstage people. It was people part of the promotion chit chatting with the fans. During intermission, the talent came out, sweaty, beaten. Uh, not no one, nobody sliced up that night, but they came out in their gear still, holding their necks, holding their arms, attending to the fans, bringing out their T-shirts to take pictures, to sell merch. Fans were really respectful and told them how much they appreciated the match, and that's what keeps them going. And that's why I loved being at an indie show, is because it has some type of intimacy to it. There's you build a relationship with the fans. If WWE puts out a brand new star tomorrow, or today, Friday, or if AW puts out a new star on Wednesday, Tuesday if you like NXT, and just introduces them to us and be like him, we're not gonna feel it. We need some type of connection. We need to feel like we know this person, and that's what stars of the independent circuit are doing. They're telling their story the way they want to. They are in charge of their narrative. And it's such a beautiful thing to see stars like Jeff Cobb, Leo Rush. Leo Rush introduced a brand new supernatural character that night at Prestige. Such a great thing to see. It feels like it really felt like I was watching the rough cut of Clerks, while they were editing in the video store. It felt like I was watching Green Day perform When I Come Around before they ever put it on Dookie at Gilman. It really felt like that, and I gotta start going to independent shows more often. I was hooked, um, but it was such a great show, and that's why this episode is called "The Wonderful World of Indies," is because it truly is wonderful. And if anybody gets a chance to look up on YouTube, many Ring of Honor pay per views are on there. Check them out. For sure, the trilogy between Samoa Joe, and CM Punk is on there. A lot of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was actually, um, it's this wrestling promotion out of Reseda. It annually has a Battle of Los Angeles tournament, and it gives stars. A lot of stars of today went through that tournament. Kenny Omega was, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole, all of them. It's basically like a tournament style bracket, that takes place in multiple weeks, sometimes even in a night. And it really shows like the best of Los Angeles. And I'm not talking about that Alien movie with Aaron Eckhart. Where we're talking about
I love that movie, by the way.
Did you?
Battle for Los Angeles, I think it's called.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause some people look it up and they confuse the tournament with the movie. Was it actually a good movie? I'm gonna have to see it.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty realistic, alien invasion movie, and
Okay.
that's what I liked about it. You got the real soldiers and out there, and
Mhm.
these aliens come down, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do, and you're
Okay.
watching these soldiers sort of fight and figure out a way to get,
Mhm.
to kill these guys. Or,
Oh,
but
okay,
yeah, I just
okay.
it's on. If you look right in front of you, I keep all my favorite DVDs right there in front of you, and it's one of those.
Okay, nice. So check it out. Check out Battle of Los Angeles, Aaron Eckhart. But the Battle of Los Angeles tournament, I'm actually surprised it even still. I tried looking up tickets. I wanted to go attend a Pro Wrestling Gorilla show as well because obviously I made it very clear I'm a huge Bullet Club fan, huge fan of the Bucks, and I wanted to check out this Pro Wrestling Gorilla show. I know Kevin Owens, who was formerly known as Kevin Steen back in the Indies, holds Pro Wrestling Gorilla to a special place in his heart because if it felt, I think looking at those pictures, I could kind of see what these guys talk about. That it feels very intimate. I think you look at picture of the arena and the crowd, how small the ceiling is, and how tight it is. It's just like it feels like you're in that match with them. Um, so it's places like Pro Wrestling Gorilla, Ring of Honor. Um, it's these places and these movies, and like not just Clerks and not just Napoleon Dynamite, movies like Slackers, movies like Juno. It it doesn't need explosions. I don't need the the big entrances all the time. All I need is a good plot, a beginning, middle, and end, and I don't want to be the same as what I was when I went into it. I don't want to be the same as when I get out of it. And the same with these pro wrestling shows. Yes, sometimes it's good to see these flips. Yes, it gets exciting to see the blood. But sometimes these guys have a bigger story to tell when not all the decorations are all around it. It's really just two guys going in there putting their heart and soul out in that ring. And that's why I love these indie films, these indie wrestling promotions, and I hope you guys get a chance. If you haven't seen any of the movies that I've said today, or any of the wrestling promotions that I've said today, if you haven't heard of them, YouTube them, stream it, watch them. You're gonna get what I mean. Such great films. But I think that's gonna wrap us up for today's episode, the wonderful world of indies. Um, Getting out the final shots of today. I know I just heard that Eddie Kingston is actually going to be out on injury from pro wrestling. He's going to be out till early 2025. What do we got coming up this weekend? We got both King and Queen of the Ring for WWE's on Saturday, and then we have AEW's Double or Nothing. They're going head to head this weekend. Memorial Day weekend, we're getting a lot of pro wrestling. Um, I'm not sometimes all in for it because then I feel like one's gonna kind of overshadow or kind of make the other one an afterthought. But I also love this competition. Such a great time to be a such a great time to be a pro wrestling fan. Where you have all these options. And it's not just one. You know, I got a whole buffet of stuff that I'm gonna be able to watch. I'll be trying to review both the events separately, so I'll pull up those videos if I can. Probably record them on my phone because it's gonna be done on the weekend. It's 2 different days. My scheduling kind of conflicts with trying to get into the studio, but I always try to make time to get here. Um, I know for sure I'm gonna keep my tabs on which next time Prestige Wrestling is gonna be coming to LA. I know they run out of I think Seattle or Portland. Um, they mainly do the shows over there, but they come to LA every so often. I just heard of a new wrestling promotion also that's done out of Maywood, which is actually where Brittany Brooks is defended her title. She was the inaugural women's champion. I think it was New Wave pro wrestling. It's like an all women's pro wrestling promotion. I got the card on my phone. But actually, and it seemed pretty interesting. All women's pro wrestling promotions, I'm all for it, and it gives more options. I actually found it out of all places. Maywood is having its own wrestling show. It's awesome. I know the Santino brothers as well. Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, coming out of Bell, does their own wrestling promotions as well. Has really good matches. That wrestling school has also graduated a couple people who went on to have careers. Brody King of AEW, part of the House of Black, came from that training school. So it's crazy that all these small towns put out greatness and put out successful careers, and you wouldn't never know. But that's why I love the Indies. It gives opportunity and gives us new options and shines a light on places that we wouldn't think. So I'll leave you guys with that. Solomon, thank you very much for joining me today on this episode of the Wonderful World of Indies.
Absolutely.
What movie I'm gonna watch now? I feel like watching an indie movie now, tonight. Oh man, I don't know. Solomon, you recommend anything? Indie movies? What movie you recommend other than Battle of Los Angeles?
Well, that I don't think that was even an indie movie, but let's see here. Best indie movies. Hmm. Let's see. I don't know. I can pull some up. That's the best I can do.
All right.
Let's see here. We got Daddy O with Dakota Johnson here.
Okay.
Uh, oh, Kinds of Kindness. Yeah, I did see previews for that.
Oh, did you? Is Was it a new?
Yeah,
Okay.
psychodrama twists its way through three separate storylines. Dark, surreal. I got Memory here.
Hmm.
Let's see. All of Us Strangers.
I
That
got
Elvis.
the Elvis Presley one right, but that's the Priscilla that's coming up.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
That's an indie movie, really?
that's what they're calling it. There's Priscilla.
Yes.
All right, and then Maestro.
Maestro. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you've heard of some of these then.
Some of them, yeah, I've heard of.
Okay. Well, um, yeah, let's see. The Beast
Beast. Okay.
is uh theater camp.
Actually, you know what? Another indie movie that I would like recommend to you. I don't know if you ever heard of Rushmore.
I haven't yet, but
No,
I'll
you
look it
haven't.
up. I'll look it
Rushmore is
up.
probably the one that I give you guys to watch if you haven't seen it. Um, I won't give any of the plot away. It's like one of those movies you just have to like press play and just watch. And a lot of familiar actors come out in it, but the main character there was a nobody at that time, but ended up having a great career after. And that's what the Indies also does. It makes careers.
Oh, this one's from '98, right? Is that the one you're
Yeah,
referring
Rushmore.
to?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
he's holding out his hand like that, and it has Bill Murray in it. It was Wes Anderson movie.
Right.
He did like the Royal Tenenbaums. He did the Aquatic Life. He did all those like it kind of fits into to the genre of like the Junos. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I saw that in my film class, like when I was in
Okay.
high school. I had no idea what I was watching because in my film class we they asked us uh what genre movies you guys want to watch this year. I give my students the option of watching a genre, and everyone was like hood movies. Let's watch like and then somebody indies, and then he was like, there we go, good pick. Well, I could tolerate that, and he put on Rushmore. Rushmore was one of the indie movies that he put on that year.
Mm,
Because I know that year was when Juno came out, so that was actually a homework. I'm not saying that he had to always just watch movies for homework, but every time a big Oscar movie was coming out, he's like, "Okay, you guys got to watch this," and it was Juno that year, and which is such a great film.
yeah.
If you haven't seen Juno as well, great soundtrack, great movie. It's a little dated when you watch it. I think the dialogue's a little dated.
Is
But
that
other
the
than
one with the
that,
pregnant lady?
yeah,
Girl, the
yeah.
pregnant. Okay.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
that was a good movie. Yeah, and Judd, was it Michael? Oh my god,
Oh, don't ask me for names.
oh my god, from Superbad. Oh my god, The main character from Super yeah, but one of the main characters from Superbad, was in it. I don't know if it was before or after Superbad,
Mhm.
but he was in it as well. But, also Jennifer Gardner was in it. Also
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera, there you go,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the parents too were done by J. Jonah Jameson, the guy that did, JJ from the early Spider-Man movies, he was in
Mhm.
it. The mother of Tanya was in it too, before she won her Oscar. I think she won the Oscar for that movie, but before that, she did Juno. Such a great movie.
Yeah.
But I'll let you guys go, and hope you guys have a good night. If you guys don't get to watch any of the pay-per-views this weekend, make sure to always tune in to Monday Night Raw, Wednesday Dynamite, and then we got Friday Night SmackDown, NXT on Tuesday. If anything, just watch all the highlights on YouTube. And good night, guys.